please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Just Stop Oil, some of their actions concerning pride, stag do's, tennis, because they're middle class, but also the pride one's an intriguing one. We have a number of videos of members being arrested, explaining the reason for it, because a number of them have been subject to section, whichever one of these, like 12, is it? 12, 22, 32? I don't want to confuse it with Star Trek, but I often conflate the two because Star Trek's better than Just Stop Oil and Star Wars. Just Stop Oil's protests with Pride, though, have taken real interest in this country. Obviously, Pride Month's now over, but it sort of came to light just at the end, so we're not too far removed from the last protest during Pride Month. But their protest was, oddly, an anti-capitalist, anti-environmental protest, right? You can't be good for the world if you make so much money and produce so much negative, yeah? Even if you have a company green policy, it's not good enough because it's not absolutely doing everything straight away. Something which, for the sake of this video, we will get to momentarily, I promise. There's some valid context. You all need to know it. And weirdly enough, there are some instances where I can actually vaguely, not even a joke, align with something, a message espoused by Just Stop Oil concerning the commercial aspect to what certain events are meant to be and what they have instead become. But I also understand with a commercial aspect, you need that to promote it better. The problem you have is then to balance the original message, or a message worth celebrating, with that of the vast amounts of debauchery you see around children, none of which should be around children. No costumes, in fact, that have tucking should be near children. Consequences are being felt by many large companies for their involvement with Pride, or removal of involvement with Pride. They dug themselves a hole here, people. It turns out Just Stop Oil have poked and pointed at the inconsistency in just the right way. So let's get stuck in, shall we, with the news aspect before we get to the videos. Andy Murray, two-time winner of Wimbledon, and said there is a good chance that Just Stop Oil protests will disrupt Wimbledon, which is part of the very short grass court season in tennis. But he has warned the activists against targeting the championships. This is because while he supports the group's cause, he says it could be dangerous to invade the courts because tennis players have rackets in their hands. Something which I 100% agree with, and there are a couple players, as an Australian or two especially, who have zero tolerance to wading into people and giving it their all. While there isn't much of a chance that while the protest is happening, Cliff Richards stand up in the stands and start singing "We're all going on a summer holiday," which he's done before, it was cringe, there is a chance, a slim one, that somebody's going to get chinned with a tennis racket. Now, you do have to remove the likes of Serena Williams because she won't do it and she's retired. You can remove Andy Murray because he's so injured, I'm still impressed he's still going-ish, kind of. He hasn't had a good season since, 2016? It's been a long, hard slog for him, but he's made a lot of money, can't hate the player. Do I think Just Stop Oil will protest at Wimbledon? Yes, they're going to throw that orange powder crap all over the place and then be dragged off while screaming their messages. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of them were dressed as ball boys, where they can then complain about the composition of what a tennis ball is made of, what the rackets are made of, the fact they're playing on grass that's actual grass, because by playing on it you're ruining it. Grass is after all so good for the environment. And while there are many who argue that tennis needs to go more green, at least with Wimbledon, when they finish with the tennis balls, what they do is they donate them and they are recycled within weeks and months of the tournament. Typically, they go to the UK Wildlife Trust, who cut them up and use them as homes for harvest mice, which I like. They're getting repurposed. But since tennis balls are mostly made out of rubber, I can imagine many people are none too pleased they're not made of concrete, which is totally grown. Yeah, that was something said by somebody, don't worry. If I can find the clip, I'll play it here.
Well, you can't grow concrete.
You can.
Ohio, we do! Ohio, we love you! We love you, Ohio! We do! We love you, Ohio! We do! We love you, Ohio! We do!
And yes, that was a stag do invading a Just Stop Oil protest to troll Just Stop Oil, who, I'll give them credit, if people troll them, they don't seem to be so inherently negative against it because they know they're just a bunch of drunks. But of course, if you have enough time to drink, then you have enough time to protect the planet and future generations. This is a serial matter and should be taken serially, even by those on a stag. So let's now talk about Pride. 5 Just Stop Oil protesters have been charged over demonstrations which briefly led to London's annual Pride parade being delayed. Images on social media on Saturday showed the police removing demonstrators who managed to briefly halt the march. 5 people aged between 20 and 68 were charged with public order offences. The 5 charged are Ben Plumpton, Zosia Lewis, Oliver Clegg, Goss Bootsma, and Callum Goody. In addition, 2 males aged 19 and 22 were released on bail pending further inquiries. The thing you have here is Just Stop Oil chose to protest something that is quite commercial, but also quite a unifying force in London of all places. And as is often the case, there weren't many of you present, and while you're getting a lot of attention, you fundamentally failed. But that doesn't mean you failed entirely. You see, there are people who back it, and Just Stop Oil do in fact have video of this. So I thought that would be where we go next. Now this is a very interesting protest. On the face of it, it comes across as potentially trying to disrupt Pride, which in and of itself, all optics would say, you guys are screwed to an extent. But then if you really look at it, you find they're not protesting against LGBTQ and all the other letter representation. No, they're protesting the far too capitalist aspect that has deviated Pride from what it was supposed to be. I should now insert a disclaimer, because I will not say but. That's one disclaimer. The second is, I support any and all protest, no matter what it is. Okay? I believe it a fundamental right, a human right. Do I think this looks bad? Not as bad as it could have looked had more people turned up. But also, they actually have a message, and some of them have spoken, and they're where we're going to go next before we go to those who back them. Because there are people that back the intended message, which is another reason why Just Stop Oil haven't really gotten too much in the way of hugely negative attention beyond coverage. Many will clown on them because it's Just Stop Oil, but there's an aspect of this that does deserve to be heard.
Yes, I've just been arrested at Pride for demanding that there is an end to fossil fuel licensing. Pride started as an act of civil resistance, and it should still be an act of civil resistance.
Pride was part of that, you're quite right. Over the years, it became less about the civil resistance and changed to match times. Instead of becoming a civil resistance, it became a way of helping people to celebrate who they are, become one with their identity and proudly show it to the world. Now, of course, that message has also been perverted, and we've seen it this year. It has become distorted in some areas, some places, to a degree that has become quite unacceptable. Again, please do not use children to sell stuff to them during Pride or to use children as some kind of assisted marketing. But we're not done with this video yet. There's more to add.
But instead, it has become about advertising, about having huge companies like Coca-Cola coming through and just trying to sell their products to people. It's all become about pinkwashing, about rainbow washing, and it needs to return to its roots as a civil resistance campaign.
Now that's an interesting aspect, a really interesting aspect, because many big companies do invest heavily within many LGBT foundations, charities. They do this to look good, of course, because then more people want to buy their product. Some may even believe the message they espouse. That is the nature of capitalism after all, which is, as we all know, haram. But there's another point to this. You are dunking on companies that are known for investing within civil rights in this respect, because they know the return benefits them. Of course, greed, how dare you. But they also, Coca-Cola are known for this as well, and it's on a website at least, have been working with a green target in mind to reduce their emissions. As with all projects, these take time. It's not a snap of the finger quick change, but it is something they have been working towards. But we have more videos. Let's go to others and get some more context.
I'm being arrested for fighting for all queer futures. Queers will be disproportionately affected by the climate crisis, just as they are made to suffer by mass corporations who think Pride is a money-making scheme. They see it as nothing more than that. They use it for advertising. Pride is not for corporations. Pride is for queer people.
Now, without any sources to confirm what this gentleman says, it comes across as quite the assertion. To assert that all companies involved in Pride solely do it for themselves and not because they want to help. But also the queers being disproportionately affected by the climate crisis, something which I actually have no sources to confirm, and there weren't any of the tweets put out by Just Stop Oil concerning this. Sometimes it'd be nice to know what it is they're trying to say and where they're getting their information from. I had originally thought it was on the back of a McDonald's Happy Meal, but I'm not entirely convinced that fun factoid would be found anywhere near a McDonald's Happy Meal or even a McVitie's Penguin.
My name is Anna Holland, I'm 21 years old, I'm non-binary, and I'm a supporter of Just Stop Oil. I went to my first ever Pride Parade last year in London, and I was disgusted to find that what was once a celebration of queer anger and resilience and power and resistance had been turned into nothing more than an advertising campaign for companies who are desperately trying to pinkwash themselves in the hopes that we don't notice that they are supporting the fossil fuel industry.
Pinkwashing, also known as rainbow washing, is the strategy of promoting LGBT rights protections as evidence of liberalism and democracy, especially to distract from or legitimize violence against other countries or communities. A term I did not know existed until the moment I said it. It's come up a couple of times and I thought it right to include it in this video. The issue with this is that it can be loosely tied in with white savior complexes or virtue signaling, the umbrella term for all of it. A shallow, hollow way of making it seem like you're doing something when really you're not. Corporate America, virtue signaling. Big words, sod all accomplished. Apparently, big companies are not allowed to do this because it hides their real behavior, the clandestine evil that they represent. Now, I'm not defending the companies, I'm just being a bit sarcastic because it comes across as a bit conspiratorial if you're not showing something to support it, okay? I ask you just to be better, nothing more, because I'm a condescending dickhead.
They are supporting the government in their shared campaign to kill us, kill our children, and kill every single person in the global south with the climate crisis. Now, if you think that the fight is over for queer people, that we have won, you are sorely mistaken. I would not be able to exist today as a non-binary person if it hadn't been for the thousands, if not millions, of queer people who have died in the past, who have gave up their lives for my right to exist. And now these rights are being threatened every single day by a conservative government that refuses to see us as people.
I'm kind of curious if you think when Labour win next year, they'll help you at all. What could they do to fix the world for you? Also, the Conservatives think of everyone as oiks unless you went to Eton. As many of those who operate within Just Stop Oil's banner, under it anyway, there is a rather slim chance one or two of you may have in fact gone to school with a member of the current Conservative cabinet. I hate alliteration.
When the climate crisis causes societal collapse, who do you think will suffer first? Do you think the straight white man is going to suffer before the queer people?
That depends. Does he have a job? Does he pay his taxes? Does he have a roof over his head? Are there protections that give him preferential treatment over other people? Does white privilege somehow come with a membership that allows them to go hide in a bunker when the world goes to pot? If that is the case, why aren't more people identifying as a straight white male, since they know it comes with a rather large number of privileges? Apparently.
No, we are going to die if we do not fight for our lives. So I'm asking you to join us in civil resistance against a murderous, genocidal government.
No thank you. No lives matter is my mantra, and I'm going to treat you all with absolute contempt equally. So to those who support this, Owen Jones, Coca-Cola are the world's biggest plastic polluter and stand accused of multiple human rights abuses. They are using Pride and LGBTQ people to make themselves look like good guys. This action by Just Stop Oil is completely justified. Pride is a protest. with some pointing out Pride is a celebration, not a protest. I do find that I've never really seen Pride of late as anything other than a celebration. You might see bits here and there talking about inequality, but the part that gets the most attention, well, it's the part where they're celebrating proudly. So I think it's less one than the other, and more it is supposed to be, or apparently is, both, depending on which lens you are viewing it through. One being convex, the other concave. By all means, make of that what you will. And he does have a point, Owen Jones, when it comes to the human rights abuses Coca-Cola faces. That doesn't mean Owen Jones is any less of a tool, but it does mean from time to time he might stand a chance of getting something slightly correct.
I am a peaceful person. I am a peaceful person protesting about this genocidal government.